Hi everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to make a simple and delicious veggie pasta. I am starting by washing some garlic and then using a knife to push down the garlic so that way it is easier to peel. Just a little tip for you. And then I am chopping the garlic and chopping the basil. Now I am adding the garlic and basil to the pan with some olive oil. I am doing this so that way the flavors can come out of the garlic and the basil because this is going to be the base of the sauce for the pasta. So now I'm chopping 1/4 of a red onion. I decided to use red onion instead of white onion because I think the red onion mixes really well with the other vegetables and has a really awesome flavor, but if you do not prefer red onions, you can always use a white onion. Now I am coring and washing 1/2 of a red pepper, and I'm going to chop it up and add that to the pasta as well. Now I am washing up some whole white mushrooms. I am going to chop these up. When deciding how thin you want to chop your veggies, just keep in mind how much you like that vegetable and how much you want it to add to the flavor of the pasta. For this recipe, I decided to chop my red pepper pretty thin, as well as my mushrooms, just because there were so many flavors in the pasta that I didn't want any one of them to really be the overwhelming taste. Now I am going to wash some cherry tomatoes, and I am going to leave these whole because I really like in the pasta dish when you get a cherry tomato and it explodes in your mouth. If you're not a huge fan of the cherry tomato texture, you can always add vine ripened tomatoes and chop them up and add them to the pasta. It's really just your decision. Now I am going to fill a medium-sized pot with some water and put it on medium-high to get it boiling so that way I can add the pasta. Now it is time to put your stove on medium and mix together the garlic, basil, and olive oil. This is an important step because the base of your sauce is going to be the garlic, olive oil, and basil. If you do not have any fresh basil, that's totally fine. You can just use dry basil, but do remember that when you are using dry basil, it is a lot stronger than fresh basil, so you will need to use a lot less of it. Once your garlic, olive oil, and basil have cooked for about 3 to 5 minutes, it's time to go ahead and add the rest of your veggies. I am adding everything except for the cherry tomatoes because if you add the cherry tomatoes at this stage, they have a likely chance of bursting and becoming more a part of the sauce versus their own element. Now I'm measuring out some pasta to go ahead and add to the boiling water. I'm doing it in a bowl because I find this is an easy way to determine how much pasta to add to the water because I would know exactly how much pasta I like to add to my bowl. So this is an awesome way if you're ever curious about how much pasta you should cook. So I'm adding a little bit of salt now just because I want to create that salty flavor. However, I have learned over time that often the salt does kind of cook out and the flavor goes away. So if you're trying to watch your sodium, I would say add just a teeny bit of salt right now and then add most of your salt at the end because you may end up liking it without adding any salt at all, so that's why I always recommend to add the salt at the end. Alright, so now is the time to add in your cherry tomatoes if you're using them. This is the perfect time when your pasta is about done, because that way the cherry tomatoes will not be on the stove too long and they will not burst. So now my pasta is done. I am going to drain the water off. However, I'm going to leave a little bit of water behind, because once you add the pasta to the pan with the veggies, it can burn if the pasta does not have any liquid with it. So I would recommend keeping a little bit of the pasta water and pouring it in with the pasta, and then mixing it around as I did here. I pulled it off the stove because I did not want it to burn, and I turned down the temperature. I also added in a little bit more olive oil to help the consistency. Next, it is time to add in a squirt of lemon. I'm using half a lemon here. However, I did not use the whole half a lemon. I really like the citrusy flavor, but I think a half a lemon would be too strong, so I would recommend starting with about a fourth of the lemon and then adding more if you want more citrus flavor. Alright, now it's time to start adding some spices. I'm starting with nutritional yeast. This has a really cheesy flavor, so if you are vegan, I would definitely recommend adding this to the pasta sauce. However, if you're not vegan, you can always add Parmesan instead, but I do add nutritional yeast even though I'm not vegan, and then I add some Parmesan often on top of my pasta just because I like the flavor. Now I am actually adding in a sprinkle of dry basil. I did not begin with many fresh basil leaves, and I do really like the basil flavor in the pasta sauce, so I am actually adding a little bit extra basil to mine. And I'm also adding some salt. This pasta was a bit salty for me, so I would say be light on the salt at this time, and you can add more later. Alright, so now I'm adding in some spinach. I'm adding this in now because I do not like my spinach to cook down too much, and I still like having the spinach flavor in my pasta. If you do like the spinach more cooked down, I would add it a little bit earlier, but what I did to help cook it down a little bit is I turned the temperature up to medium, and I continuously stirred the pasta so that way the spinach would mix with the olive oil, and that would help it cook down. Here I added a small splash of water just to help with the consistency. Once your spinach has cooked down to your liking and you've stirred the pasta for about 5 minutes and the flavors have mixed together, your pasta is ready to eat. Alright guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I think this pasta recipe is really awesome because you can throw in whatever veggies you have on hand or whatever veggies you really enjoy, and it'll work out the exact same way. I really hope you guys try it, and if you do, please tag me and show me your creations. Thank you so much for watching again, and see you next time.